What's up, guys? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you guys what we look for when buying properties out of state. My name is Brian Tran. I'm located right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we buy a lot of properties. As of this filming, I actually own a handful here in California, but I decided, you know what, we're not going to expand the portfolio here anymore. We're actually going to be looking to expand it in states like Alabama, Texas, states that are a couple more friendly for landlords. As you know, California right now, they're coming out with too many rights for tenants. They're coming out, making it very hard for landlords to just own properties here. Not to mention the prices are just so expensive that if we were to rent it out, you would actually lose money every single month. So I'm gonna share with you guys in this video how we came to the conclusion, or better yet, what we looked for when buying out of state. Okay, so the first thing we looked for, because California is just too difficult, it had to be landlord friendly, right? What that means is that if a tenant doesn't pay, we got to be able to get them out much faster. In California, you're lucky if you get them out in 30 days. You got to go get a lawyer, you got to serve the eviction notice, you got to go to court and get them out. But all during that time, you're going to be bleeding money. So we wanted to look for a landlord-friendly state, okay? The second thing we looked for was the 1% rule. The 1% rule basically means that if you buy a property for $100,000, the rent has to bring in at least 1%. So $100,000 property, it needs to bring in $1,000 a month in rent. So that's the 1% rule. Because if you do that, guys, you're going to be able to cash flow. Okay? The third thing we looked for was we wanted to look for, the median home price, right? An affordable median home price. So in the state that we ended up deciding to go to was actually Alabama, where the median home price was $126,000. Affordable, that's what we want. And it met the 1% rule. The fourth thing was the population growth. Now, why is this important? Well, although most of the markets in the South, they don't actually appreciate a whole lot like California, we don't want to buy in an area where there's a negative population growth, which means that people are leaving the state or leaving the city, right? What we're looking for is growth. We want people to come in because if the more people that move into the area, home value and rent will go up. So that's very important here. The fifth item was median income. We wanted to make sure that the area that we were investing in, people were making a semi-decent. And according to the Census Bureau and a couple of other websites, the area that we were buying in was about $65,000 a year. Why is this good? Median home price, $126,000. Median income, $65,000. So it means that people can actually afford to buy real estate. They can actually afford to pay rent. Right? You don't want it to be so low where this becomes unobtainable, kind of like California right now. The average home price right now in San Francisco is 1.2, 1.3 million, and the average income is only like 100, right? 120. It just doesn't, there's too large of a gap. If you're getting a lot of value out of this, make sure you give me a like and a follow and hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel. Thank you. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple of other things that were a little bit bonuses. These were not so much like a deal killer, but there's something to consider when you're buying properties out of state. Number 6 is snow. Now, we were looking in some markets that had some snow, no problem, but this becomes kind of a tricky thing because we didn't want to buy in the snowy areas because a couple of things. A lot of wear and tear on the roof. You got to worry about the pipes bursting. You got to worry about, like, for example, in Ohio, somebody has to shovel all that freaking snow off the sidewalks. And so if you think about it, if the tenants aren't going to do it, you have to pay a company to do it. And that could be 40 to 50 bucks every single time. So you can imagine if it snowed, I don't know, like a whole week and you got to shovel it, and pay somebody, that could wipe out your whole month's profit for that particular property. So that's why this one was kind of like, we'll buy it if the deal's right, but we're gonna try to avoid it as much as possible. And the number 7 thing that people don't think about are property tax. In one of the areas that we were looking in Lakewood, which is a part of Cleveland, Ohio, property tax is almost 2 to 3%. That wiped out, that made it very hard to cash flow on some of these properties, which was outrageous. And even in parts of Texas, you got to worry about this because they can reassess your property and really make your cash flow kind of unpredictable. However, in Alabama, which is where we went to, you're talking about 0.25%. So it's pretty much nothing. I think it's the second state with the lowest property tax. Don't ask me where number 1 is. I have no freaking idea. But this was very good because, the less we pay here, the more we get. Let me show you right here. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do a live deal or no deal, okay? So the realtor just sent this over, and I'm gonna use the real address so that you guys can just take a look at it, follow along. So this one's $150,000. They're asking for $150,000. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. And if you look at the property, it's right up my alley. So it's got a beautiful roof, black. I like black roof. It has brick facade. I love brick. Brick screams like wealth to me. I like owning beautiful properties. They don't always have to be beautiful, but it's a plus if they are. And whoever bought it already did all the work. It's 1,450 square feet, new flooring, new kitchen, new bathroom. It's ready to go. If we were to buy it, I'd probably say that we don't need to put any money into it. Granted, when we buy properties, we always do an inspection report to make sure that there's nothing unforeseen. But let's assume it doesn't, okay? And let's just say that it's ready to go, it's ready to be rented out. So my strategy is this. You can rent this to a traveling nurse. You can rent this to a good tenant. We love Section 8. I love Section 8 because it's guaranteed income. A good portion of it is going to be guaranteed every month by the government. And so we know that the rent, so this is the price. And let's go for the rent. The rent is $1,100 a month. Okay? So looking at this, we can already tell that this does not meet the 1% rule. Now, we're always going to make a little bit of exception. Let's say if it makes, 0.9 or 0.92, whatever. If it gets close, we can try to make the exception. But right now, we're off, okay? Because $1,100 a month is $13,200 a year. So we're short. So unless we can come in here and try to negotiate with the seller and say, hey, would you take $132,000, which is $18,000 off? We're gonna try, but I'm not exactly sure what they'll say. But if you are gonna offer, off the bat, you know that this is too high, okay? The second thing I looked at, and this is something that you have to do on your own, is you just gotta Google the area, make sure the crime's not too high. We don't wanna buy in the F and the D neighborhoods. I try to buy in the C plus, B minus, right? Because there it's not too expensive and it still makes sense. So we're looking at this, we gotta get this down to $132,000 a year. I know that the neighborhood's actually pretty good. We're not gonna have any unforeseen maintenance problem because everything's already been kind of done up, pretty new looking. So this is gonna be a no unless we can get the price down. The other thing that I wanna look at, okay, and I wanna break down the numbers to show you guys what we're gonna make here, all right? So at $13,200, we know that the property management company is gonna take 8%, okay? So property management is gonna take $1,056. All right, which leaves you with $12,144. The next thing you want to know is that property tax is about roughly 0.25%. So you're talking about $132,000. Well, let's do it off the 150,000, okay? You're talking about 375 property tax. So now you're left with 11,769. Now you want to add in another 5% for vacancy and another 5% for capex, like things are gonna break eventually. So you want to make sure that you're saving for that, okay? So you're gonna do 13,200 times 0.05. You're talking about $600 and 660. That's for the repairs, and then you're gonna minus another 660 for your vacancy. Leaves you with 10,449. But wait, this is if you paid cash for the property. What if we finance the property, okay? Now that's important because if you finance the property, now you have a mortgage to pay. So this isn't your take home just quite yet, all right? What you need to do is figure out how much is the mortgage gonna be. So that's easy. We know that with an investment property, you need to put down 25% down, okay? So if you buy the property for 150,000 and you're gonna multiply that by 25%, that means that you gotta put 37,500 down. I'm gonna put DP for down payment, all right? Minus your loan's gonna be 112,500, 30 years at 7%. Let's just do 7.5%, okay? Because rates are actually dropping, but let's go a little bit higher. So your monthly payment, right, off of the loan. So it's gonna be 786.62 a month. If you do 786.62 times 12, your mortgage payment each month is going to be $9,439.44. So you take this is how much you're going to make minus the mortgage payment, and you're only going to make $1,000.09 profit. To me, makes no sense. You're probably wondering why. Okay? That's how much I make, but I had to put 37,500 down on the property, which means what am I making? What am I making off this money that I had to put down? 1,009 divided by 37,500. You're making 2.6% on your money, right? Cash on cash. Why would I do this when I can put this into a CD account and make 5% and don't have to worry about any property? So this deal right here, guys, doesn't make any sense to me. Not at 150,000. We need to get this under by a lot. Preferably, I wouldn't even want it to get it for 132,000. I would need it in the 115,000 for it to make sense for me. Okay? Because at the end of the day, owning property is great, but it's not about flexing property. It's about how much money you're actually going to make. This may still make sense for somebody, and I'm going to tell you why. If somebody has a tax problem and they made a lot of money and they're a real estate professional and they need to depreciate an asset, this might make sense because even though they only make $1,000 a year in profit, but if they can save $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off their taxes, then that's completely worth it. I get it. But from a number perspective, from a cash on cash, from a monthly cash flow perspective, this is a no deal for me. Okay, not at $150,000. So what should you target to get? My thing is this. If I know that the CD accounts right now are paying me 5.5, just by putting it into the bank and making 5.5%, my target ideally is to try to make at least 8 to 10% cash on cash. Because That way, I'm actually making a little bit of cash flow. I'm getting a little bit of appreciation. And not to mention, for me in particular, my personal experience, I get a big tax savings. So I'm looking to get all three, right? Tax savings, cash flow, appreciation. Okay, so depreciation, appreciation, cash flow, basically. All right. So I hope this kind of makes sense for you guys. Hope gives you guys like a little bit more of a thought process. Play with the numbers a little bit more. There are definitely deals out there. Just this one's a little too expensive. But here's the kicker, all right? Of the 3 properties that we just recently bought, I was able to negotiate very heavily, not only on the price, but also on seller credit. So we picked up a couple properties in the 90,000 range, and the most expensive one being 110,000. And they were all bringing in about $1,100 a month. And at that price, it made a lot of sense. So give me a thumbs up if this was a lot of value. Hit the subscribe button, right? Let me know if you want me to do more value. Send me your deals, and then let me throw it in the calculator. Let me see if it makes sense financially. Let's go. Peace out.